Now, I know this has been going on for quite some time, but I think it's fair to say Alexandria Ocasio Cortez is declaring war on the Democratic Party. The latest story from Fox News, AOC riles Dems by refusing to pay party dues and bankrolling colleagues' opponents. It is no secret that Ocasio Cortez is very famous and is raising a ton of money. Now, normally, some of this money would go to the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee to help other House Democrats win. AOC is refusing to contribute, in fact, saying she's going to actually fund challenges to these Democrats. One of the first things AOC does when she gets elected, not protest Republicans, she joined a protest in Nancy Pelosi's office, a Democrat. I think it's fair to say there are not two political parties in this country right now. There are three. You have the progressives, you have the Democrats, and the Republicans, and the progressives are taking over the Democratic Party and trying to shut out the establishment. Now, depending on how you want to frame it, I could actually say that AOC is a progressive force, challenging the crony establishment and taking these people out of power, these do-nothing Democrats. Or you could say she's a hypocrite and a bully. Because in the past, she's demanded that other Democrats vote in certain ways, but she's threatening to primary them anyway. So what are you supposed to do other than just bow and let her take over? Regardless of what your view of her is, I think it's fair to say there is a strong case to be made. She is the future of the Democratic Party because she takes no prisoners, she demands allegiance, and she uses her space in the public eye against her opponents in the Democratic Party to bring in more, other progressives. However, the Democrats aren't taking this lying down. They've threatened to primary her. And they might be able to win because they have substantial resources. They're also threatening to remove her congressional district outright. So perhaps at the end of this year, she won't even have a seat to run for. Well, her district may be gone. She can still run in whatever she ends, whatever district she ends up being in. But it's fair to say the Democrats are at war, and AOC keeps showing her hand. She doesn't want to be a Democrat. She doesn't like the Democrats, yet still they do what she wants. They push for impeachment because AOC says it is a scandal that they won't impeach the president. So Nancy Pelosi comes out and says, fine, we're going to impeach the president. What does AOC do right afterwards? I'm totally over it. This is boring. And here we are now with Jeff Van Drew, and she says, you better vote for impeachment. I can't tell which way, if she's coming or going, but I can tell you this. CNN ran a story saying AOC should leave the Democratic Party. And I got to say, they make a good case. Why is she even a Democrat? Joe Biden's been a Democrat for decades. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they've all been there doing the same thing. Why bother being a Democrat if that's the case? You know what? I'll say this. For all of the things I don't like about AOC, I really don't like these crony establishment Democrats who have been in office for 30 years and then blame Trump whenever something goes wrong when Trump's barely been in office at all. Something seems rotten in the kitchen. So you know what? I'm not a fan of AOC and her policies, but I'm going to sit back. Okay? The same is true for Trump tearing through the ivory tower. The same is true for AOC. You know what? You get what you deserve. For the longest time, these Democrats have not done right by us, the American people. They're not going out talking about kitchen table issues about economics, immigration, healthcare. They're complaining about Trump. So be it. If you won't do your job, don't be surprised when a more extreme figure comes in to sweep you out. Now, there are serious problems. Everything they complain about Trump being all the worst. Yeah, well, AOC is little Trump, okay? I get it. They're not the same. One for one, they embody a similar principle. An upending force waging war on the party. Now, Trump came in like a bull, stormed through, and took everything. Bernie Sanders and AOC are now pushing through on the Democrat side, and they're not happy about it. So here's what I'm going to do. I believe that AOC and Bernie Sanders have been a bit hypocritical. I think it's fair to say, and I'll show you why. But I want to talk about the Democratic Party, the war going on, what Dems are saying, and what AOC is doing. Let's get started with the story from Fox News. Before we do, however, go to timcast.com/donate if you would like to support my work. But more importantly, I have a new show coming at youtube.com/timcastirl. Make sure you go and subscribe. You can see the link, I hope, in the right side of my main channel. And seriously subscribe. In the next week or so, we should have things on a roll. And I've got some big guests planned. And there's going to be a lot more fun stories, less serious news, but more fun, more interesting stuff. I'm going to talk about interdimensional travel, and I'm going to talk about, less political stories that are still making the news. So it'll be silly, but fun. Check it out, youtube.com/timcastirl. Let's read the story from Fox News. In an exclusive report, they say Alexandria Ocasio Cortez has already topped the fundraising charts in her short time in Congress. But the liberal darling won't donate a cent of her millions to Democrats' House campaign organization, a position that has rankled some of her colleagues, Fox News has learned. Instead, Ocasio Cortez is building her own fundraising operation for fellow progressive candidates to bypass the official Democratic Party infrastructure. Already, she's actively funding primary challengers to oust certain Democratic colleagues. Quote, "Sometimes the question comes, do you want to be in a majority or do you want to be in a minority?" Rep. Gregory Meeks of New York told Fox News when asked about AOC's stance. "And do you want to be part of a team?" Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee Chairwoman Cheri Bustos downplayed Ocasio-Cortez's decision to shun dues and pointed to the record-breaking fundraising numbers the committee had notched without her. "That's always up to the individual members, so I guess I don't think about it one way or another," Bustos said when asked about Ocasio-Cortez's stance. "We're raising record amounts of money from our members." The DCCC declined to comment further on the matter of Ocasio-Cortez and her dues. Another Democrat was less diplomatic. "Deadbeat Cortez should pay her bills," complained the Democratic source. "She's always whining about people paying their fair share, and here she is leaving her friends with the bill." Stop. Full stop. This is very, very different from socialism, right? We're talking about crony Democrats who complain about Trump left and right, aren't getting the job done. Many of these people who campaigned on actually bringing, simmering down the political divide and instead jumped on the impeachment bandwagon. So I'm not going to shed a tear over these people not getting money from AOC. However, I do want to point out something based on motives, behavior, and principle. Ocasio-Cortez doesn't like these Democrats. Well, that's a shame. But she's not willing to provide any of her cash to them. Now, I understand it's not the same thing as government, but I think it's a fair criticism. I do. Imagine Ocasio-Cortez as an actual national leader. When she says, "We have raised all of this money through taxes to fund X program, but I don't like them. I'm going to give money to who I like." When it comes to socialism, you have to recognize there are going to be a lot of people you don't like, and they're going to get a piece of the pie as well. This, to me, is a bad sign about her motivations and what, and she, like many other socialists, happen to do once they gain power. They shut out the ideas and the people they don't like, often in very, how do I say, lethal ways. Now, of course, I don't think AOC would ever be in that position. I don't think America is ever going to end up in a situation like that. I'm just saying to tone things down and be less hyperbolic. Look, you have to recognize if you're all about the community, you have to provide for the community members you do not like either. To me, this seems quite hypocritical. I will also point out that, AOC and Bernie have tried downplaying, being socialists, but AOC is a card-carrying member of the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. Let's read a little bit more, but then I want to point out how CNN actually ran a story saying AOC should leave the Democratic Party. I kind of agree. I've also got some story about dark money funneling into the Bernie campaign. Oh, surprise, surprise. They say their gripe is that Ocasio-Cortez hasn't given any money to the DCCC, the party arm with the sole job of electing Democrats to the House. Records obtained by Fox News show the New York Democrat has failed to pay any of her $250,000 in dues. Her goose egg of a contribution is no accident. Ocasio-Cortez says she has beef with the DCCC, and she'll withhold her money in protest of how the Democratic Party won't back insurgent progressive primary candidates like herself in the name of protecting incumbents. She said, "For me personally, I'm not paying D-trip dues." She said for a myriad of reasons. One, I don't agree with the policy around blacklisting groups that help progressive candidates. She said, referring to a DCCC effort to sideline vendors who assist challengers to members of Congress. "I think we need to evolve as a party and make room for that." Hey, I actually think that's a pretty fair criticism. The Democrats are actively trying to stop progressives from coming into the party using the primary method. AOC wants to fund challengers to Democrats. Democrats don't like it. I can understand both sides of the issue. But AOC is actively waging war on the Democrats. And like I said, man, on principle, I like the idea. They've been sitting so happily in their ivory tower, asking for the keys to the castle and getting nothing done for 30 years, and now blaming Trump for all of the problems when I'm exaggerating, I know, they blame him for a lot of problems when he's been in office for only a few years. Certainly there are things to blame Trump for. For one, you can blame him for the good economy, I guess. There are some other things involved in, people being sent from Mexico to Guatemala, things that you might find amoral. Sure, criticize the guy. The point is, AOC is waging war on Democrats. And while it can be a good thing, AOC's policies are not that perfect either. And at a certain point, you might actually argue, well, she's not a Democrat. Why should she be allowed to come in and do this? Well, we can't have this system, unfortunately. We can't have a system where the Democrats can sit around doing nothing, collecting all this money. Eventually, if you refuse to do right by the American people, this is what you get. So you know what? I like what AOC is doing, but I do think it can be a tad hypocritical. So obviously, they're ragging on her. They say this. Bucking the Democratic Party line, Ocasio Cortez led online fundraisers for at least 2 progressives who are trying to defeat sitting Democratic members of Congress. I don't want to go through all of this. I want to keep the focus more on Ocasio Cortez and her clash with the Democrats. So I'll jump now to this story from Salon.com. Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, quote, "In any other country, Joe Biden and I would not be in the same party. Democrats can be too big of a tent," she said, criticizing the party's alleged acquiescence of moderates. I disagree. I actually do like, to an extent, the 2-party system. What I don't like is the corporate control and these career politicians for 30, 40 years who aren't getting the job done, who use their position to keep everyone out. That's a problem. 2 parties, not a problem. I'll explain. First, check out this story from CNN Opinion. AOC should leave the Democratic Party. Well, if she did, she would lose. She only won because she primaried her opponent, meaning she got like 17,000 votes in a district of 750,000 people. She did not win by any legitimate means. Well, she did, technically. But I mean like ethical means. Our system is broke, and it's a joke. There's a lot of really great things about it. But the idea that we have private organizations running elections and AOC use an exploit to get elected, to me, it's sad. But let's see what this Froma Harrop has to say. She writes, this is an opinion piece, by the way. They say Ocasio-Cortez was not entirely wrong when she said in any other country, Joe Biden and I would not be in the same party, in an interview with New York Magazine. In this country, however, the 2-party system ensures a wide range of views within a political label, and particularly within the Democratic one, exemplified by Biden and AOC's contrasting views. In the interview, AOC, who represents parts of the Bronx and Queens, complained, "We are not allowed to talk about anything wrong the Democratic Party does." Yeah, you're not. I'm certainly not. Nonetheless, she went on to complain that Democrats can be too big of a tent and that they let anybody who the cat dragged in call themselves a progressive. There's no standard. Perhaps AOC would be happier leaving for another party than let her set the standards. Well, under the Democratic umbrella, she seems to have made it her mission to fight the Democratic establishment. In particular, she has worked with a group called Justice Democrats, supporting progressives. It's no coincidence that the far left Democrats, including AOC's 3 colleagues in the squad, were elected in very safe liberal districts. But the Democrats now control the House, not because of a handful of radicals, but because 40 mostly moderate Democrats took seats from Republicans. And there you go. The Democratic Party was able to impeach Donald Trump because they have a wide range of views, because people like Jeff Van Drew in Republican districts won on moderate values. Okay, look, the 2-party system is problematic for a lot of reasons. They're private organizations, they do what they want, and then they affect public institutions. I don't like it. However, I see a lot of people complaining, saying it's not fair. Listen, we have a Democratic primary right now with a ton of candidates. Many are dropping out. And they're pushing continually to the far left. The problem is not the 2-party system. The problem is the far left activists who control who gets elected, pushing out the moderates. That's creating chaos. So you can blame the 2-party system. Sure. Because if we had a multi-party system or rank choice voting, that is, you choose in a rank who you like, and if the person doesn't win, your vote goes to the next choice you made. I do like the idea. Then we would have a variety of parties and a variety of individuals. But as far as I can tell right now, Americans, for the most part, agree on a lot of core issues. We saw, if you watch the segment I did earlier this morning, we can see that Democrats are ticking towards conservative now, and America ticked closer towards conservative. There's been a trend towards liberalism. Now people are less likely to identify as liberal. That means the Democratic Party is going to bring in these moderates and give power to the party. This means that far-left AOC, who completely disagrees with moderate Jeff Van Drew, now Republican Jeff Van Drew, will be in the same party and be aligned on interests. There are some net positives to this. But let me show you something. From The Hill, Ocasio Cortez calls out Democrats for refusing to impeach Trump. Well, what are you supposed to do, right? This is the big story. She said it was a bigger national scandal. Isn't the president's law-breaking behavior? It is the Democratic Party refusal to impeach him for it. Yeah, and then after this, when they started moving forward, she said, I'm so over impeachment. They didn't even end up impeaching Trump on any substantive issues, at least as far as I'm concerned. There was, the fact is there's no statutory crime, so call it law-breaking, but then don't impeach him for it. I think it's nuts. The reason I bring this up is that Ocasio Cortez demands allegiance. That's what it's all about. She demands allegiance from you. She does not respect opposing views, and she will not provide in a team manner to other organizations. I'm sorry, to other candidates, people she might disagree with. Think about what that means for her in principle. It means that if she was in power, she would operate in much the same way. I do not trust people who want power and who do these things. You know what, man? I understand it's a rock and a hard place. We cannot sit around with Nancy Pelosi as the leader of the Democratic Party, essentially, and these other 80-year-old, octogenarian candidates who have been in office for 40 years and are doing nothing. At the same time, AOC is a bully. She is absolutely a bully. Jeff Van Drew was forced out of the party, not because of AOC, because the Democrats said to him, we will primary you unless you bend the knee. Listen, there's power in having a wide range of views in one party. That's why a two-party system basically happens. You can align on certain values, and there's some dangerous aspects to it as well. But Jeff Van Drew just joined the Republicans because of these threats. You need to respect the diversity of opinions within your party. AOC should recognize everybody pitches in, and they don't all agree. There are blue dog Democrats in southern states. There are red state Democrats who are not going to agree with you on everything, but at least you have them on your team, and they will agree with you more often than not. Certainly, the same is true for Republicans, but AOC is not a team player. She's a hypocrite. She will slam you unless you abide by her rules, but she won't play by yours. She is not on your team. She is taking over your team. Okay? And again, I know I'm conflicted emotionally because I like the idea of the Democrats getting comeuppance. I like the idea of these progressives challenging these crony keys to the castle Democrats who aren't doing anything, but I don't like the people who are doing it. This is a big challenge for people like me who have historically been Democratic or lean left. And I'm looking at the party having these crony ivory tower elites getting knocked down, makes me smile. And then I look at who's doing it, it makes me frown. So let me do this. You get the point. AOC plays these games. Let me show you this other story. I might do a longer segment on this for the 6 p.m. Schedule. Dark money has bolstered Bernie's campaign from the start. I don't want to get into all of the details, but suffice to say, Bernie started a 501c4 nonprofit. It's collected tons of money. It's not necessarily a super PAC. Maybe you could say it is. But Bernie Sanders does the exact same thing as everybody else. AOC and these other people, they're all doing the exact same thing they complain about. The reason I call this out and not say Trump for his dark money, Trump's a billionaire. He brags about being a billionaire. He brags about raising money. What am I supposed to do? Trump admits it because he's proud of it. Okay, I guess. Trump has also raised a lot of grassroots money. So is Bernie Sanders. But it's Bernie Sanders and AOC complaining about money in politics when they're literally doing it. Look, I get it. You've got to play the game to win. And if they don't take advantage of what they can, they'll lose. So maybe Bernie should be more upfront about all the things he's doing. Maybe AOC should actually comment on the fact that she accepted a maximum contribution from a billionaire. Now, I think it's a fair argument to say that individuals can make maximum contributions. So what? I'm not going to drag everybody for this. But the average person can't make a maximum contribution, okay? If Tom Steyer is going to be giving AOC maximum contributions, I think it's fair to criticize her for this because look, the average American's not going to pony up $2,800 to their candidate. And that's what happened. So listen, I think it was right of Bernie Sanders to slam Michael Bloomberg for his ad blitz. But I got to say, if you're mad at Bloomberg for doing what he's legally allowed to do, if AOC is going to legally, be allowed to take billionaire money, again, it was an individual contribution. I think it's fair to point out. I think it's important to say there's nuance here, okay? What Michael Bloomberg is doing is ridiculously bad for democracy, for our democratic institutions. I know we're a republic. But I still think it's hypocritical for Bernie to criticize, dark money while taking by using 501c4s as well. I just don't trust any of these people. Okay, so in the end, who am I supposed to trust? Well, I'll tell you this. Donald Trump takes has dark money networks, same as anybody else. These are nonprofits that bring in money, but Trump is an overt braggart of a billionaire, and people love him for it. Bernie Sanders and AOC criticize Buttigieg for taking money from billionaires, and they do the same thing. What am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say Trump is being honest about being a billionaire and how he made his money, and he's bragging about it? People like it. What am I supposed to criticize? People like it. Bernie Sanders comes out, the billionaires, the dark money, and then he does it. And AOC, the billionaires, the dark money, and then she does it. Well, that's hypocritical. So I guess, I don't know if I made my point clear enough, or if you got what I'm trying to say. It's really just about what I perceive as overt hypocrisy. There are subtle differences, but I think it's important to point out that right now, the Democratic Party is basically the party of, Orange Man Bad. Right, there was a story in the New York, David Brooks wrote an op-ed in the New York Times saying the anti-Trump group, Echo Chamber, has become stupid because literally everything Trump does is bad. And that's all they're campaigning on. Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you this. There's a war going on in the Democratic Party. Ocasio Cortez is not playing by the rules. She is waging asymmetrical warfare. She demands that they do what she wants and then uses her money to go against them. I think she's going to win. I think so. And I think it's fair to say that come 2024, she might be a contender for the presidency. You laugh now, man. You laugh now, but seriously, she's got a ton of followers. She's raising record money. It's important to say America is not becoming progressive. You'll hear it from people, and even people I respect, like, I think Jimmy Dore's talked about. He's a good dude. He says, I could be wrong about this, so forgive me, Jim, if I'm misquoting you, but he talks about how America is actually a progressive nation being held hostage by, say, like the Electoral College and Republicans. Not the case. According to Gallup, we are a center-right country, and we are pushing further in that direction. So while AOC may upend the Democratic Party, it's not going to change what America thinks. So I'll tell you what I think. AOC might win. She's going to bolster that leftist activist base, take over the Democratic Party, and the Republicans will double in size because of it. Because regular Americans, modern Americans, will join the Republicans when they see AOC take over. So the Democrats are right to resist, but you know what? You reap what you sow. The whole system's cracked and broken. It's about time we got some real change. So I know I'm critical of Bernie. I know I'm critical of AOC. And that's just how I feel. I think I'm justified in doing so. I think the left in this country is fractured and broken, and the right is gloating about it. They're unified around core ideas. They're bragging about Trump being a billionaire. They're bragging about the operations in the Middle East. What do you want me to say? They like what they're doing, and they're doing it. Okay. The Democrats, on the other hand, are falling apart in a million different ways. So here we are. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. at youtube.com/TimCastNews. It is a different channel, and I will see you all there.